Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Soup Carrier S.I.Q.
Alright, so for today, we got Sabo versus Zoro on the agenda. For some reason, Sabo still is stronger than Zoro. You, give me a valid reason why you think Sabo is stronger than Zoro.
Sir, he's the Flame Emperor, and he's the right-hand man.
I heard enough. Sounds like hope. You, give me a valid reason why Sabo's over Zoro.
He's Luffy's big brother.
What the fuck does that even mean? Now to ask my more credible students, why would you guys put Zoro over Sabo? For now, we just have to go based on facts. Zoro got Enmo, and he faced two Yonkos, and he gained the ability to cut fire. And he now has Advanced Conqueror's Haki, which is an ability that is better than anything Sabo has in his arsenal. Sabo, from what we know, spent the entire reverie running. He hasn't really had a really good feat on a top tier. Alright kid, give me a reason why Zoro's over Sabo.
Oh my god, I love Sabo so much, his Haki soak.
Shut the fuck up, boy. Didn't I tell you give me a reason why Zoro's over Sabo?
Yeah, sir, I was gonna say his Haki is so amazing, but I think it's nothing compared to Zoro's.
Oh shit, you are credible.
I mean, yeah, sir, if you let me finish.
Alright, get the fuck out. Wait, Shanks or Mihawk?
Sir, Shanks a Haki man.
Alright, get the fuck out of here. I suggest you guys stay till the end of the video because it does get a bit wild and I think you guys might find it a bit funny. But before we get into it, guys, if you're new here, make sure you guys take the time to subscribe and like the video. If you enjoy any minute of this video, a subscribe would be very much appreciated. Now, we're going to talk about two things in this video. Later on in the video, we're going to discuss the feats and their stats and compare them between Sabo and Zoro. And we're going to talk about how the fight would go down if they were to fight each other. But firstly, we're going to talk about Sabo's betrayal and the lore that makes people favor him regardless of Zoro's feats. I kind of thought Sabo was stronger than Zoro based on the reverie incident, and I thought he was doing the craziest shit in terms of fighting top tiers at least. But we come to find out he really didn't do anything. And many people are still hanging on to the fact that Sabo is stronger, and the reasonings don't really make sense to me. And I'm gonna name you guys the 7 reasons that are the most common for people believing Sabo is still stronger than Zoro. The first one is he's Dragon's right hand. And I want to say a lot of these reasons are valid when comparing Sabo to characters who aren't Zoro, or characters who don't have what Zoro has, or the feats that Zoro has. He's Dragon's right hand, and yes, that does give you a boost in strength to some extent. That does make you look pretty strong because obviously we know the stature of Dragon and who he is in the One Piece verse. But Zoro is kinda like the right hand of Monkey D. Luffy. He's not confirmed the right hand, but obviously he's the number 2. And Luffy is a Yonko now. He's not no kid, he's literally a Yonko. And Zoro is his number 2, and he's the second highest bounty person on the Straw Hat crew. We know who Luffy is. No one really matches up with him. Even if you're stronger than him right now, we know what Luffy's destined to be. He's literally Joy Boy. And being the right hand to that man, I mean, hey, it's just as impressive. What am I talking about? It's gonna be way more impressive than being the right hand to Dragon. That's all I'm saying. The right hand argument only kind of works with Bed Beckman because he gets compared to Shanks a lot via data books and stuff. They hype him up and his strength and compare it to Shanks. And he has that vice captain portrayal. Sabo doesn't necessarily have that. And the only time they ever compared Sabo to Dragon was back in the reverie because they thought he did some crazy ass shit, calling him the Flame Emperor, saying he has more influence than Dragon because of what he's done at the reverie. But we all know what he's done at the reverie isn't an indicator of his strength at all. The second thing is Sabo had Haki since he was 17, or he had Advanced Artem and Haki since he was 17. Yes, Sabo does have Advanced Artem and Haki. I would go as far as to say he has the Internal Destruction, the one that allows you to put your Haki into objects and blow it up or penetrate your enemy and destroy them from the inside. And I don't think Zoro has that ability. Some people like to go as far as to say Zoro doesn't even have Advanced Artem Haki. And I want to remind you guys, Advanced Artem Haki or Ryo, there's 2 levels to it. The first level that Luffy was learning, it can be used on defense like an invisible armor and converted to an offensive power. And the second version that Luffy got, which allows you to penetrate the enemy's interior and attack them from the inside out, which Sabo probably has alongside Luffy. But Zoro definitely does have the first version, or it just wouldn't make sense. I would go as far as to say Zoro probably had Haki pre-time skip. Here Goro tells Luffy, "Straw fellow, in Wano there is an invisible power that stems from the body and can be infused with the blade. A good katana will cut through steel and it will not break a sheet of paper if you do not wish so." He goes to show Luffy an example of what Advanced Artem is / Ryo. Cut to a flashback of Shimotsuki village when Zoro was with his trainer. "I heard there's men in the world who could cut through anything, even steel. Is that true?" And he told him, "Yes, that's true." And it's crazy because that's the wording that literally Goro was telling Luffy. And then he shows Zoro he can't even cut the sheet of paper. Also what Goro was mentioning when he was talking about how Ryo and that invisible power that people use on their blade and how they can't cut a piece of paper if they don't choose to are the same thing. Cut to Zoro versus Mr. 1. And then Zoro's Zoro's trainer tells Zoro the pinnacle of swordsmanship is the power to protect what one wishes to protect and cut what one wishes to cut. Listen, Zoro, there are swordsmen in the world who are able to not cut anything. To not cut anything is like hearing the breathing. Is this the power to cut steel? And he goes to cut Mr. One. What Zoro Sensei described is literally what Hyogoro described to Luffy. Zoro obviously had Ryo. That's what Luffy needed to bypass Kaido's skills. Can't fight Kaido and not have Ryo. That's exactly why Zoro on the rooftop was even able to slash him. How can you slash him without Ryo? Make it make sense. But yet again, like I said, Sabo does have the advantage because he does have that higher level. This all doesn't matter because Zoro has Advanced Conqueror's Haki, which trumps Advanced Artem Haki by a ton. Like, it's just way better than that ability. So with that being a point, it really doesn't matter when Zoro is an Advanced Conqueror's Haki user. The next thing is he got trained by Dragon, and obviously living with Dragon for a long ass time, he did probably train him, and that probably made him a lot more powerful. But at the same time, we can't quantify how much he actually learned from Dragon. We can't quantify the training, we can't quantify how strong he is, we can't quantify how relative he is to Dragon. We don't know nothing about that training. Anybody can make any type of assumption they want to. Someone could say Sabo was trained to the point where he's on Dragon's level now because he's been with him for how many years now. So that point is kind of strange. And on top of that, Zoro also has been trained by someone as well, the world's strongest swordsman, who's debatably even stronger than Dragon. He's Luffy's older brother. I mean, I kind of get what you guys mean. Like, you shouldn't be out of Luffy's league completely. But then again, Luffy's not a little boy, guys. This guy is going to reach crazy heights. Let's say he defeats Akainu, Blackbeard, and Emu. He has all these crazy feats. Are we going to try to tie Sabo in with him because he's Luffy's older brother? Just no, like, they won't even be comparable. And we could literally be at that point in the series right now. So there's no real way for Sabo to really keep up with Luffy. Sabo might be awakened. Now, this is the most strangest thing to me. Okay, he might very well be awakened, but what makes you believe that? Why would you factor that in and put him above Zoro right now with no evidence? Sabo, we seen him in the latest chapter. Does this fruit look awakened? No. It's like, why would I think that? Like, what makes me think that? I know he wasn't going full power. We haven't seen his awakened devil fruit ever. Until we do, I don't think it's right to speak about it, to say he's stronger than character. By far the worst argument that came out the last chapter, that this one is just insane. Please don't say this. People are somehow trying to say that, number one, the Flame Emperor means he's a certain level of strength. Number two, the fact that he was able to survive Emu and run away adds credit to his strength. First of all, the Flame Emperor title is not linked to his strength at all. These guys perceive Sabo a certain way in this incident. They might think he's a certain level of strength. We know he wasn't fighting admirals. We know he didn't do shit to nobody. Number two, the fact that Sabo made it out alive is not a feat to say he's stronger than Zoro. The fact that I even seen the argument, oh, if Zoro was in that room, that guy might die, man. What does that even mean? Sabo, if he didn't get saved by Cobra, he would have died. And the fact that he took an Emu attack just because Emu wanted to kill Sabo does not mean shit, because we seen Cobra take that same alleged attack and get back up later in the chapter. Like, bro, what are we talking about? Man is an old, crippled, disabled civilian, and he took that attack. Sabo, yes, he would have died if he never even got saved by Cobra, so I don't understand what the argument is. The fact that he survived and he lived to tell the tale? What does that mean? That's like me putting Sabo in Zoro's situation at Wano, saying, oh my god, can Sabo stop the Hakai? For even a brief moment. He can't, right? And he would die instantly. Oh my god, guys, Sabo can't stop the Hakai for a brief moment like Zoro did. He would have died. Zoro stronger. Like, what? Bro, come on. And lastly, this might be 6 reasons instead of 7. Zoro has a time limit on Enma. I want to remind you guys, yes, he does have a time limit, but Zoro doesn't only have to fight with Enma. He has other swords that he uses, and he can also use them with Advanced Conqueror's Haki without using Enma. When he unlocked Advanced Conqueror's Haki, he had a moment with all his swords. He had a flashback. And as we know, all his swords are coded. Not just Enma. Enma is the reason why he was able to unlock the ability in the first place, and it helped him regulate his Haki to flow it onto each of his swords. It was like a training tool in a sense. Now he should be able to use Advanced Conqueror's Haki on his other swords. And on top of that, Zoro has amazing feats before he even had his King of Hell state, to the point where he should be able to fight Sabo without needing to go King of Hell right away. All that being said, Zoro has better feats, and Sabo's portrayal does not trump that. Neither do his feats because they're basically non-existent. In some cases, portrayal and logical assumptions like assume a character like Mihawk has Conqueror's Haki can be used when considering if he's stronger than a character because it's blatantly obvious. But Sabo, there aren't concrete assumptions. Now let's get into the matchup Sabo versus Zoro. First thing we're going to talk about is speed. Now the speed feats that Sabo has, I don't know. I can't think of any speed feats. I try to look through chapters of when we've seen Sabo in Dressrosa, Reverie. If I'm wrong, then let me know. Zoro was able to blitz King, Flames Off, and King is one of the more faster characters we've seen, and he was able to blitz Kaido with Ashura. Some people don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. All these feats give him the edge over Sabo in speed, durability, and endurance. Sabo, once again, really doesn't have feats for this. Actually, the latest chapter, he got hit with Imu's arrow, or supposedly Imu's arrow, and he was able to get back up right after, but he was still severely damaged. Some of you guys think that's the strongest attack in the series because Imu used it and he wanted to kill those guys, but hey, Cobra was able to get up after getting hit twice by it, and Cobra is a regular ass disabled man. So Zoro took some of the Hakai damage and was able to continue with 30 broken bones. Zoro was taking a beating by King and was able to keep fighting. It's funny because the Sabo even have better durability / endurance feats than pre-time skip. Zoro, bro, doesn't have feats at all, which is kind of like my whole point here. Like, do I really have to go in depth? I'm only sharing a few examples and keeping it short and vague because Sabo doesn't really have anything to combat anything. Zoro wins this as well. Now, when it comes to attack power and offensive capability, if you want to give it to Sabo, I don't blame you because the potential is there. He has the Mera no Mi. The capabilities with that fruit offensively is insane. And before he even had that fruit, he was able to beat Dragon's right hand man with just very strong hockey. Combine the two, the fact that he had trained the Mera no Mi for at least 2 weeks could make his attack power stronger than Zoro. I'm not one of those people that think just because you have advanced Conqueror's hockey, your offensive ability is better than anybody's in the series. And Yamato's a prime example of that because I definitely don't think that's the case with her. And a feat he has for this is one-shotting Burgess. Burgess is a commander, but at this stage in the series, Zoro's one-shotting commanders too, so it's not really that impressive when comparing him to Zoro. Well, with Zoro, not only does he have advanced Conqueror's hockey, which is portrayed to be the best ability, his feats kind of make it hard for Sabo to still be ahead of him. Obviously, the scarring Kaido is the main thing because he was able to do this pre-King of Hell amp. But more specifically, it was because it was Ashura, and the fact that he was able to scar him with 30 broken bones is extremely impressive. There's attacks like Flying Dragon Blaze that cut the horn of Onigashima that made Kaido dodge, that had Big Mom yelling in fear. His attack power is insanely wanked on that rooftop. One could argue King started to block Zoro's attacks because he was afraid of the damage he could do. And knowing Zoro's entire skill set, he probably will have stronger attacks than what he's shown. So the feats plus the advanced Conqueror's hockey, I gotta give it to Zoro. Ability / hack. I don't really know what to say for this because I don't think any of them have hacks, but Zoro does have the Firefox style, which gives him an insane advantage over Sabo. Bro is able to blitz Big Mom and cut Prometheus a bunch of times and even intercepted and cut Kaido's big ass Boro breath. For hacks and abilities for Sabo, I mean, he doesn't have nothing. He has his pipe, I guess. So just in case you wanted the simulation of how the fight was gonna go, the fight starts and Zoro puts his bandana on. Sabo shoots Hikan / Fire Fist at Zoro and he cuts that shit in half. And in that moment while Zoro is cutting that attack, Sabo uses that as a moment to get up close to Zoro and use Dragon Claw. But Zoro ends up reacting almost instantaneously and blocking it with the sword in his mouth. Right after follows up with an Onigiri. Sabo was bleeding a lot, kinda like how he was bleeding when Imu shot him with the arrow. Bro gets up and creates Entai. Zoro ends up lunging to the Entai and cuts it similar to how he was trying to cut the meteor in One Piece Stampede. And he ends up cutting it in half. And while the flames are dispersing, Sabo emerges from the flames because his roach ass was hiding in the flames in his Logia state. And he ends up hitting Zoro point blank range with Hikan. Zoro is laying down like how King had him laying down, and he starts laughing and he gets a menacing face. And King of Hell activates. Zoro throws a 720-pound phoenix and Sabo blocks it with his haki. Sabo brings out his pipe and coats it and tries to square up with Zoro. Zoro cuts that pipe in half and tells him, "Don't ever try to disrespect me with that bullshit again you call a weapon." Hits Sabo with 103 mercies. And that was the end of the Flame Emperor, Sabo.
Zoro